Okay. All right. Is there any kind of break at this meeting? No. I mean, I know Mickey was lobbying for the break.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. This is a one-speaker meeting. Please welcome our speaker tonight, your friend and mine, Doug.
Hi, my name is Doug, and I'm an alcoholic. Josh, thanks for asking me to speak tonight. And thank you all for being here to help me participate in my sobriety. The Marina Center, this is a great, I got sober here at the Marina Center. I have a lot of history here. This brings back a lot of memories. This is one of my least favorite things to do, and that's why I'm doing it. It is. I do not like doing this. But it's contrary action. And so here I am. And God, my story is very much like yours. It was fun, then it was fun with problems, then it was just problems. And that's it. That's my drunk log. Now let's talk about recovery. I want to say congratulations and welcome to Mike and Megan. It was great to see you guys take your chips. Welcome. This is a great place. I remember, and all the chip takers. Actually, we almost batted around the order this time. That was really cool. I love seeing that. And happy birthday, you guys. That was very cool seeing everyone take their chips. It's great to see the 9-month. That chip isn't taken often enough. I always notice if you have a chip commitment, anyone who's had a chip commitment knows how long those 9-month chips stay in that bin. You know, you always have to buy the newcomers, you always have to buy the 30 days, but the 9 months always stay, so congratulations, that's awesome. Funny story. When I took my 9-month chip, it was right here, and I was standing right there, and I proceeded to tell everyone from right there how the program worked. And you know, and everyone was kind enough not to, there were a couple of snickers, but everyone was kind enough to bear with me, and they understood. And that's what I've gotten here, and that's what I love about this program. That's one of the many things I love about this program, is the acceptance that I'd never found anywhere else, that I was always looking for, that I never got, that I got here. When I came here, 11 years, 7 months, and 4 days ago, I figured it out while I was sitting there. I do count. I keep a pretty close tally. And yeah, it was January 7, 1999. And I took a 9-month chip. I was standing right there, and I told everyone, and no one said anything. There was another time I was here at the Marina Center, and I was new. And I had just got out, and I had a pager. That's how long ago that was. I had a pager with no cell phone. And it was new, and I didn't know how to work it. And it kept beeping about every minute. It would beep, and I didn't know it was me. And I kept looking around, getting irritated at who's the a-hole that's got the pager that won't shut it up? It was me. Again, no one said anything. Everyone was really kind, and I was not used to that kind of treatment. You know, I love telling people, you know, I'm from Los Angeles. I'm one of the few, the proud, the brave. I'm from LA. I was born and raised here. You know, I love telling people I'm from Hancock Park. I'm not, but I love telling people that. It's a really nice part of LA. I'm from the other side of Wilshire. Actually, I'm really, you know, Hancock Park adjacent. But it's a program of rigorous honesty, and I have to maintain that because I can take anything. Nothing's good enough for me. It doesn't matter. I have a great life. I have a wonderful life, but I'll take anything, including my address, my engine size, my job status, and blow it up to the next level just because it's not good enough. Even though it is, it's fine. I love telling people I have 12 years, but I don't. I have 11 years, 7 months, and 4 days. I love telling people I weigh 200 pounds, but I don't. It's closer to 230. It's just one of those deals that I was born with. And that's, you know, that is God in my life. When I do things like that, that's God in my life. God in my life, God enters into my life in the most unusual ways. That time of silence between when you say something to me, and there's a little bit of silence, and I actually think about what you said, and actually formulate a reasonable answer, or have the ability to say, I don't know, is God in my life. Because all I ever did, all of my life, was try and make you like me and sound intelligent. Content had absolutely zero to do with it. I didn't care what I said. As long as it sounded intelligent, I knew you were going to like me. That's all I wanted. And I did that forever. I did that for years. As I say, I'm from LA, came from a great home, Hancock Park adjacent. And my parents were the stellar power couple of the 60s. I was born in 52. Yes, I'm 57. And that makes me a baby boomer of the sickest kind. We were brought up, it was great, man. It was a good time, because I got to hit the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s. We were brought up in a great house, and my dad was an entertainment attorney. He did entertainment and sports law. My mom was a runway model for Adrian over at Bullocks, Wilshire, when that was still around. And so they were pretty much of a power couple. And so they were always having these huge parties. They were having big parties in this house. We had a big house over there. It was wonderful. And they had these huge parties. And it wasn't considered child abuse back in the late 50s to have your, 6, 7-year-old kids bartending. That was considered cute. It was okay. Now you'd be sent to jail. And I'd be put in a foster home. But then it was cute. And me and my brother's 11 months older. We come from a good Sicilian Catholic family. So my mom, only child, had 6 kids in 6 years. Yeah. Poor mom. The Catholic rhythm system, yes. So we were all pretty busy. So they had my brother and I were the bartenders at these parties, and it was just, we were dressed alike with little bow ties, and we were behind the bar making drinks. I could make a martini like you wouldn't believe at 7 years old. Incredible. You take the vermouth, swirl it around the glass, throw it out, and then pour in. It's easy. Come on. Like everyone doesn't know that at 7. But drinking wasn't really, I just liked the show, and I liked the attention. I was the number 2 kid, so I liked all the attention I could possibly get because I always lavished on my brother, who I hated. I learned to love him. More about him later, believe me. He's not getting off that easy. Had a great upbringing. It was fine. It was great. It was, the 50s and 60s, and it was all that. My dad was busy making a living. My mom was busy, supporting that living with all the social engagements at all the clubs and organizations. We went to the right schools, had all this stuff going on, and I hated everything that I touched. I hated everything that I heard and everyone that I met. I didn't like anybody or anything. I was disgruntled from day one. I found the greatest way I could get attention and the greatest way for me to get any kind of juice or reaction was to steal. I took to stealing like that, man, as a little kid. I was just this little cute little boy that would just steal anything that wasn't nailed down. I just loved it. And I'd get caught, almost intentionally. It was an attention-getting device. It was my first, it was my first taste of getting the jazz, getting that juice. And I loved it. And punishment, what, is that all you got, I was constantly saying, that's it? Okay, I can handle that. And then I learned through trial and error that humor was to be my best friend. Studying was for losers, because all those guys were not my friends. I got to be friends. I went on to high school at Daniel Murphy High School over at 3rd and Detroit, which is no longer in existence. They closed it down. They had to sell the property to pay for some of the lawsuits that they're in the Catholic Church. So I went there and found out that humor. I was hanging out with all the jocks and all the guys. They had our classes divided up into 4 groups: the smart guys, the pretty smart guys, the average guys, and the really not so smart guys and athletes. And I was always in that 4 group. I tested in the 1 group, but I always achieved the 4 group. That's the level to which I wanted to, that's where I was at. That's where I belonged. And I found that humor I wasn't a jock. I hated sports. I wasn't, going to study. I wasn't going to apply myself, certainly, because that was for losers. And so I found that humor was my best friend. And I started, I learned about cars, and, well, mostly I learned about cars by stealing them. And, great. And, boy, if I'd only kept some of those cars, man. Anyway, but I digress. But through humor, I made friends with all the right people, all the street guys, all the football players, and we had a pretty good time. Now, my parents, of course, being the entertainers that they were, had a basement full of booze, and I was always the guy that would go and get the booze, and off we'd go. We always had a car for one reason or another. That was never a difficult thing. And I can remember at 14 rolling my mom's station wagon out of the driveway, putting it in neutral, and rolling out so no one could hear it, and then jumping it, as we get down. That's just the way life was. And I saw nothing wrong with any of this. It pretty much went on like that most of my life. Okay. I had a pretty good time. I had a great education. I went up to the University of Portland. They had an extension school in Europe I went to. Because, pretty much by this time, my parents just wanted to warehouse me somewhere. They thought out of the country was better than in the country, so they just shipped me away. They just wanted me gone. They wanted me out. And so I went away. But they put me in the middle of the best beer drinking country in the world. Now, I'm not one of those alcoholics that the first time I tasted alcohol, which was about 16, that the clouds didn't part, a ray of sunlight didn't come down and hit me, and I did not hear angels sing. I said, this tastes shitty, but I love the effect. It was great, and I was on. And I thought that was fine, and I would force myself to drink. And I found that slow gin and Old English 800 was a great combo for me. Dude, it was 1966. and I was listening to my friends who were not all that bright. But I was a go-along to get along guy. But it worked. After all the vomiting was over, it was a great buzz. And I never got involved with pills. I never got involved, and that's when smoking marijuana was really risky business. You could get pregnant smoking marijuana in those days. I decided I wanted nothing to do with that. I wanted nothing to interfere with my drinking, so I stuck with booze. And I had a pretty darn good time. And pretty soon I built up a pretty good tolerance, but I discovered good old Jack Daniels, and that was it. And it was on. And so pretty soon my parents found a D college for me to go to, because that was my grade average. So they being the good, obliging parents, found a D college for me to go to. So I went there and continued my drinking career. They just wanted me, they'd had it. And they'd done a great job. You got to realize they had all these kids running around. It was time to get rid of this one. And I understand. So off I went. And continued with this illustrious drinking career. I had no idea what I was going to do. I didn't go to class. I failed out of that one. They warehoused me over at another school. I came back and decided I wanted to do photography. I was always a pretty good photographer. I went to a great school in Santa Barbara and had a wonderful time and got serious about school and graduated top of my class, came back to LA, opened a studio in Hollywood, and that was pretty good. It went off pretty well. And, but it was a lot of work. Photography is a lot of work. I did it for years. I had a studio on La Brea across from Pink's. I had a charge account at Pink's, which was pretty cool. And that used to, for some reason or another, it impressed art directors. They liked that better going to Mame San or any of these really nice restaurants. They loved the fact that I had a charge account. So I had to go, I had some pretty good business. But it was a lot of work. And the lab I was going to, they were looking for someone to represent them. And I never thought about actually, not shooting, but actually talking about photography for a living. So I gave it a shot, and it turns out that I was a pretty good salesman. And they had something more appealing than taking pictures of models and taking pictures, period. They had an expense account, which I'd never heard of before. Well, once I found out about this, I was there. And this was my new career, a career in sales, representing this photo lab. Because that's when, there was chemistry involved, and it was a very mysterious process. You needed to get a picture printed. You had to go to a lab and talk to a guy and, all this stuff. And so I sold for this lab. I represented this lab, and I got major accounts. I went around and I got some studio accounts, and I got some industrial accounts, and pretty soon I was bringing in millions of dollars for these guys, and they didn't say a word to me. I could say anything I wanted, and they said, yep, that's right, and they just went along with it. And I was turning in these outrageous, I was taking my clients all over the place. I was doing things never heard of, but I was growing their business exponentially. They were very happy with me. So they didn't say a thing, and they encouraged my drinking and taking clients out, because it was the 70s and early 80s, and they encouraged this behavior because Time magazine had an article where cocaine was not addictive, and I was all with them. They did. You can look it up. So I figured I got that hurdle cleared. I was safe there. And it just, extended my drinking capabilities. And, discos were happening. It was wonderful. There was a Starlight Ballroom over on Crescent Heights and Santa Monica. I don't know if anyone remembers that one. It's kind of a young crowd. But it was a time in L.A. It was a blast. And it was a great time. Got married to my wife, who couldn't get pregnant. We got married, and we went out for a couple of years, couldn't get pregnant. Got married, and the next month she got pregnant. And all of a sudden, she was partying with me. She was having a great time, but she got off the roller coaster, got on the merry-go-round when she found out that she was with child, and I was still on that roller coaster. I decided it was, that's great for you. I'm out making a living, and I was making bank. It was great, and it was still going on. It was changing a little bit, I noticed that some of my friends were starting to slow down. They were buying homes. They were not staying out as late or as often, and they were settling down. And I, of course, thought them all losers. And I said, it's their loss. They don't get to hang out with me anymore. And that's, well, you see where this is going. Good, you've been there. So, my people, love you. So, my ex-wife decided that it would be a good idea if I were to slow down too. So I said, okay, I'll stop drinking. So I stopped drinking, but I did not stop doing outside issues. And that was not a good experiment. That was not a good experiment. Because sleeping, staring at a ceiling is not a lot of fun. And getting up with that sandpaper underneath your eyelids and going to work the next morning, not a lot of fun. You know, trying to fake you're asleep and then getting up and pretending you're fine, trying to force down some breakfast. Oh, yeah, good one. I'm fine. I did that for a while. I did that for 18 months. And it came to be counseling time. Then it came to time for the 30-day trial separation. My son was 5. It's time for the 30-day trial separation, which I said, yeah, I could use a little vacation. Well, I never saw the inside of that house again. She had a lawyer lined up. She had bankers lined up. She had it all. As soon as that door was closed, it was like in the cartoons. Her little feet were going like this, just spinning around, going for a locksmith. And I don't blame her a bit. By then, I was just crazy. I was just out of control. I wasn't making money. I had lost my job, my good job at the lab. I was going for lesser jobs. I decided that I didn't need them anymore. I was going to be self-employed, and I was going to take all my clients with me. What I failed to realize is that they were my main support system. I really did need them. And on my own, I really didn't have a whole lot to sell. So I was going to be a broker. Now, I was broke, all right. It didn't work out. This is my thinking. Should have hung out with the smart kids, maybe, huh? So it went from bad to worse, ended up in divorce. And she had a better lawyer than I did, of course. And I was in a state, I was just there ready to explode. And at this time, I'm parked outside the house, I'm stalking her, I'm doing all this other, the usual stuff. You fill in the blanks. And, the restraining orders, the blah, 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 didn't stop me. That's, again, for losers. And I decided I was going to sign her lawyer just said, I tell you what, sign this quick claim off the title of the house, we'll give you some money. I said, money's good. So I took some money, took it to a roof somewhere and threw it off, I think. And I don't remember, it was kind of fuzzy, these are the fuzzy years. And I did buy a bar. I remember that. Somebody thought it'd be a good idea for me to buy a sports bar, which I hate sports, but it had the word bar in it, so I was in. And I ended up just, whatever, a couple of years later losing that. But I had a pretty good time. Now, having been a photographer, I took a lot of pictures, which is the only reason I know I had a bar. I took pictures because a few years ago I found them. And I had a great time, I gotta tell you. Some I can show you, some I can't. But I had a great time. And I ended up selling guns and cocaine out of the upstairs, and then I let whatever happened downstairs happen. I didn't know. It just happened. But it was a blue-collar clientele, and they mostly paid me, a lot of people would pay me in trade, and it was kind of an interesting crowd. A lot of bikers, tweakers, stuff like that. I did not look the same way. I had a full beard, hair down to my back, and a leather vest, and that was, how I kind of ran my bar. And I'd wake up in the morning. I'd come 2 in the morning. Wake up. I wish. I'd come 2 in the morning. Walk into I had a walk-in freezer. Thank God. It's the only reason I'm here today. Go to the walk-in freezer, do a couple of shots, a cold beer, a couple of lines, and then go. All right, let's go, and start the next day, and go until 4, 5, 6 in the morning. And that's how it went every day. And I did that for a few years, and until I ran that into the ground. landlord came to me and said, you know, you owe me about 18 months worth of rent. Are you going to pay me or anything? I said, I guess I work something out. He says, I'll tell you what, you give me your liquor license, I'll forget about it. We'll just call it even. That sounds great. Well, of course it sounds great. It was worth like 80 grand. I had no idea what it was worth. I just signed on, here you go. So now I'm standing on Hollywood Boulevard, no bar, no upstairs business anymore. And so I moved to, of course, I moved to Sutherland, Tujunga, the land of bikers, tweakers, Aryan supremacists, and lower companionship, which I was right at home, because I was actually looked upon as lower companionship for those guys. Because I was, I still had some money left, and I just gave my ATM to my dealer, and I said, here's my PIN number, just make deliveries. And that was the end of that, until I ran that into the ground. And I ended up down, there's a place called the Sundowner over on yes! I loved it. But what I didn't realize, I went in there to hustle pool, because I used to hustle pool at my bar, and I was in there hustling pool. What I didn't realize, I was hustling some of the Mongols in there. And it was probably not a good idea, and I was told so. And I got out unscathed. I got out okay, because a lot of people liked me there. Again, humor has its advantages. I'm just going to fast forward here. I ended up living in, I used to collect muscle cars. I had some great cars, and I was down to my last one. It was a '68 Dodge Corvette 500 convertible. Well, that's a great car, beautiful car, but convertibles have small back seats because the top has to go. That was my bedroom. So I ended up, I called the trunk the wrinkle room. It was my closet. And I was there. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I had a .38 Detective Special with a 1 7/8 barrel left, and I had it here, and I couldn't pull the trigger, and I couldn't live, I couldn't die. It was one of those situations. I don't know what I'm going to do. And about this time, my brother, who I'd mentioned earlier, 11 months older than I am, shows up with 7 years. He had 7 years in the program. I was avoiding him like the plague. I was avoiding him like a silver spike in my heart. This guy, I knew was a Mooney and was going to get me and make me pray. He was going to make me pray and wear a coat and a shirt and stuff. So I went. He said, "Come over to the office and we're going to talk about getting you some money." I said, "Well, this sounds great." So I scraped up a couple of bucks and threw some unleaded in that leadmobile. It was cheaper, and drove over to the west side of L.A. here. And I walked inside. There's my brother, my other brother, my lawyer. I still had a lawyer. Not like I needed one. And another good friend of mine. And I walk in and I open the door and I look in and I go, "I'm not getting any money, am I?" I knew. It was a little foggy, but I wasn't that stupid. So they sat me down, and then my brother, we're worried about you. Oh, you're not doing yin, yin, yin. And I go, "I'm fine. I'm fine." I had for sale signs on my car, so I was selling my condo. I had for sale. I say, I'm going to sell my car. I'm going to do one more deal. I'm going to make a fortune. I'm going to make a killing, and then I'm going to buy a smaller. I had this elaborate plan all worked out, and then they were all convinced. They were fine. And then it got to my older brother, who had 7 years in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and he said, "Okay, that's great." He said, "Here it is, Doug. I have a car waiting for you outside. I have a bed waiting for you right now. This offer's on the table today and today only. And if you don't take it, we still love you, but if you do take it, it's here today and today only. I'm not going to offer it to you again." And for some reason or another, and I don't know what happened, I swear to God, I said okay. Now, those are two words I hadn't said in 26 years. And I call them words because I say okay are words. I don't say it. And I said, "Okay." And as soon as I did, I looked around and said, "Who said that?" Because I hadn't said okay. And I'm going, but at the same time, I felt some pressure relief. I felt this, I don't know what it was, but I felt a relief. I immediately felt it. And I went, wow, that's kind of weird. So now it's a little bit high. This is as close as I've been to high in a long time, believe me. I hadn't had money. I'm a bad thief, so I decided I want to go to jail. So I never used to steal stuff too much. And so I hadn't been high in a while. So that felt pretty good. So as we're walking over, I'd say, okay, where are we going? Now, 7 years earlier, I'd been over to visit my brother at Daniel Freeman Hospital in Marina del Rey, and he's standing there with the rock stars and with all the, movie stars. And I figured, oh, it can't be too bad. I'm at the beach. There are going to be some hip people around I can, maybe get a job with. And I already had an employment agency going. I was going to get some dates with these people. I had it all wired. So we get in the car. We start driving towards the valley and not the beach. I say, well, hey, we're going towards the valley. I just came from the valley. I don't like the valley. I've already been there. I want to go to the beach. He goes, no, that place is full. We're going to Tarzana Treatment Center. I didn't like the sound of this at all. It's Tarzana Treatment. I don't like Tarzana. I don't like treatment. I don't like center. He says, you're going for all the wrong reasons. He says, that place I was at is full. I got you a bed where they had one available. And I understood that. And this is getting weirder by the minute for me because I'm starting to understand what he's saying. I understood. I go, okay. And I said, okay again. I go, wow. So off we go. So we get there, and I'm feeling pretty good about this. So we get there, and as he's prying my hands from the front door, trying to... because once I got there, I did not want to go inside. See, he did. He had to take my hands off because I said, no, we'll do it tomorrow. The last gasp of a desperate man. We'll do it tomorrow. And I went inside, and inside I found my people. I found relief. I actually was one of the fortunate ones that decided it was time. And I had the gift of desperation. And I actually discovered that I could just breathe, and I could relax that muscle in the back of my neck a little bit. And I started listening. And it's no coincidence that 11 years, 6 months, and a couple of weeks ago today, I was listening to a panel at Tarzana Treatment Center, and Mickey B was on that panel. And he's one of the men that resonated. And I listened to him because he was very lucid and very clear that day and very specific about how the program worked. And I heard. I've never forgotten it. And that's why I hope someone hears something they need to hear here tonight. I use humor. I try and inject my story, but I was one of the lucky ones because I did have that gift of desperation, and I did get it. And it just, my life beyond its wildest dreams today. And has been ever since I went into Tarzana Treatment Center, which I still don't like the sound of, by the way. Creepy. So I was there for a couple of weeks. I hadn't been drinking or using a lot because I was just, the wheels were off the wagon. Like I say, everything I was doing was the last act of a desperate man. So when Carrie came to pick me up, my brother came to pick me up. I said, okay, let's go back, because in my car, I'm sure I had something I could have scraped, a baggie, a deering, something that I could have gotten something out of. I was only a couple of weeks into this wonderful life of mine. And I decided there's still, one little jolt, little zats left. And I said, so let's go back to my car. I need to get some clothes. And he says, okay, I'll tell you what. We're going to another place. I'll go back to your car and get your clothes for you. I said, no, I know what I need. He said, no, I'll take you to this place. We're going to a sober living. Well, I really didn't like the sound of that. Sober living. Eek. Made Tarzana Treatment Center sound good. So I said, okay. What I didn't realize, all these times I was saying, okay, I was making my first surrenders. I didn't realize that, but God was putting surrender into my life. It wasn't me speaking. It was God speaking through me. It wasn't me at all. It was God speaking through me. I had the willingness through God. It was an unbelievable experience because I actually felt a physical difference. I felt a change. And I see it now, and I know it now, because once I went to that treatment center, Carrie, my brother said, okay, you just have to stick around for about 30 days. Let's give it a shot for a couple of weeks, maybe 30 days. And I said, all right, okay, again. And so 2 years and 9 months later, when I'm checking out of the sober living, I swear to God, I was there 2 years and 9 months. I was there 9 months as an inmate and 2 years as the manager. Because 9 months into my stay, the manager went screaming in the night. We woke up one morning, he was gone. Room was empty, kitchen was empty too, and he was gone. And so Dr. Murphy, who ran Brotman, Exodus, God love him, asked me if I'd take over. Not because I had any skills, but because I was the oldest guy there. I'd been there the longest, and I was, it consisted of handing out toilet paper and assigning parking spaces, which I could handle by, 9 months when I was giving you my little speech here. I could give speeches, I could hand out toilet paper. Those were my skills. So it also, I needed to stay there, and I didn't know this. And anybody that's in a sober living, has been in a sober living, or is in one now, God bless you, and I applaud that behavior because it's not easy. I understand how it is. But by getting to be the manager, I got to live, instead of living like a high school student, I got to graduate to living like a college student. I got my own room, I didn't have to share a room with somebody. But it taught me, patience and tolerance of others. It taught me how to accept others. I didn't know that God was putting all of these things into my life for a reason. I had one of my Monday night guys ask me if I needed a job, and I said, yeah. He says, okay, well, I need somebody to answer phones and get on a computer and look up stuff. And I said, well, I'm a salesman. How much does it pay? And he said, $11 an hour. And I go, well, I get a lot more than that. I told my sponsor about it. He says, you get over there, you kiss this guy's feet, you say thank you, and you take that job. So I did, because I was now good at taking good, orderly direction. God, don't get me going. and I did. And what I didn't realize, this job that I looked down on, answering phones, because I had to answer the phone like, hi, this is Doug, can I help you? Well, I didn't want to help you. I want to smash you in the head with this phone receiver is what I wanted to do. I help you. No, you can help me. You can hang up. But I got to say, can I help you? And then they'd tell me what part they were looking for, and I got to get on this computer. No, I missed the whole computer thing while I was, doing whatever it was I was doing in the pictures. That's what it. And so I had to learn how to use a computer. So I'd say, just a minute, please. Oh, shit. This thing doesn't have an S on it. Oh, there it is. So this job that I was looking down on, that I didn't want to take, I didn't realize what God was putting into my life was I was getting my phone skills back, my ability to communicate with people so I could possibly get a job in the future. I was learning how to use a computer, which I never thought they were going to go anywhere, but they did anyway. I'm an idea man. And these things were put in my life for a reason, and these are all things that I look down on and I did not want to do, because I just saw the differences. I never saw the similarities. I never saw the good in anything. I always saw the bad. I always looked for the wrong in everything. I still have a tendency to do that today. It's not gone by a long stretch. I see people and I see exactly what I want. I always see what's not there. I don't see what is there, and it's an acquired taste. It's a practice that I still try and pray for every day. My life today, when I left, when I went away on my 30-day trial separation, my son was 5 years old. I was an absentee dad. Now, sure, I'd show up for his Little League games. I was one of the coaches. I was the outfield coach. They didn't want me too near the kids. I went on the Cub Scout overnights. I'd go on the camping weekends. I was the dad that was always up stoking the fire all night long to make sure it didn't go out. There were some other parents there. I wasn't the only one. And I was the only dad there with a 1970 Roadrunner with no exhaust on it, though. Uncorked, 440. It's awesome. Yeah, big meats on the back. It was great. And yeah, I'd come roaring, and they all had their Lexuses and their minivans. And I'd come in and just hit the parking brake and turn it in. It was great. I'm here. I was that dad. So I scared a lot of parents. I'm still making up for that. I'm still making amends for that. And anyway, I was there for my son physically. I was, I'd pick him up. I had him a couple days a week. But what I didn't know until later, that he used to stay at my apartment. I had an apartment in Hollywood. There was a real going on. It was a very nice place in Hollywood, if you were me, not if you were a 5-year-old kid. He used to cry himself to sleep because he was scared, because I'd have some of my friends over, and it was not an environment. It was not a good environment. I never even thought about it. I thought I was doing the right thing by having him with me. So I was not exactly the ideal father. I wasn't Ward Cleaver. So I had to take care of this. And towards the end, the last few years, I was just phoning it in. I was just calling him and saying, going through the motions. I'd show up on his birthday and Christmas. So when I got sober, I decided I needed to change this. Actually, I'm sure some people told me I needed to change this. I didn't decide anything when I got sober that I was allowed to do. And we started having breakfast on Friday mornings over at the S&W on Washington. and 7:30. And I'm happy to report that last Friday we had breakfast, as we have every Friday morning for the last 11 and a half years. Every Friday morning. I took a new job 3 years ago, and I told my employer I'm not going to be able to make it on Friday mornings until 9:30 or 10. I'm going to be late if I can't take this job. If you want to hire me, that's fine, but I have a commitment that's far more important than this job, because that's the living amends I make to my son. And we have a relationship that's unbelievable. It's way beyond my wildest dreams. He was, when I had 6 months of sobriety, he was busted over at Uni High for selling weed to an undercover cop. That's anyone surprised? And so my ex-wife didn't know what to do, so she called me and asked me, what do we do? And so I enlisted the help of some of my AA mentors and guys that specialized in kids, and I grabbed my son with both arms. I started taking him to some meetings, and we did some counseling, and he is today one of my best friends. He doesn't smoke, drink, or use. He quit smoking about 3 years ago. He's 27 now. My life is beyond my wildest dreams. I have, the list that I wrote when I got here, everything on it would have rusted or run away by now. It would be gone. I had on there, of course, the girlfriend in the house and the cars and blah, 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 and I have none of that stuff. I have a car. I got a car. Because they actually trust me. I have a clean credit score now. I have credit. I caught up my taxes. One great story, I had all my tax years cleaned up except for 1996, and I owed a bunch of money for 1996, and I called the IRS on my sponsor's advice, and I said, look, here it is. I can pay you $25 a week or a month or something. I owed thousands, and I'm in a program that demands rigorous honesty, and I have to tell you that I owe this money. I'm willing to pay it. This is what I can pay you, and that's it. I'm coming, what do you want to do? And the lady says, listen, she said, you take your life one day at a time. Don't ever do this again. I'm writing this off as an unpayable debt. She said, file 01 on all your taxes, and don't ever do this again. She said, have a great day. She said, I'm a friend of Bill's too, and I understand. And let me go. Anything's possible in this program. I miss teaching my son how to ride a bike, and I'm an avid cyclist now. I ride a road bike a lot up and down the Bayona Creek and down to the beach, and that's my therapy, that's my meditation, that's what I love to do. And my son never got to do that, and 2 Christmases ago I got to teach him to ride a bike, which absolutely brings a tear to my eye, because anything's possible. You don't know. You don't know. You think your life's over, you think you've ruined it, you think things aren't going to happen, and then out of nowhere, God goes, wham. And in the most obscure ways. See, I have a life beyond my wildest dreams because I have friends, I have people that actually listen to me, I have sponsors that call me for advice, which cracks me up. I have a great job. I have a nice little apartment over in Palms that I love. I don't have any of the jazz. I don't have any of the trappings that I thought. I don't have the, stuff. But I have self-respect, and I look in a mirror, and I'm happy with what I see. And I like what I do, and I like who I am. And I love the people I hang out with. And, I'm really glad to be here, and thank you all very much.
Some of that was true.